All right, we're live. Good evening, everybody. This is True Temper Rocket and Cyrus Stark. This is Soul of a Fighter, and this is a quick shot episode. Basically, we're gonna MAYGREGOR circus acts event slash send in the clowns slash fake news slash Dana's rent boy gets his ass whooped. Fallout, aftermath, whatever you want to call it, whatever this was. It was a lot of fun, though. I personally had a lot of fun watching it. And so we're going to give our thoughts. We're going to discuss like the performance. We're going to discuss both men's performance, McLeprechauns and Floyd Mayweather Jr. We're going to discuss the reactions, the press's articles and the reactions for the so-called professional press and writers, journalists, and we're gonna like what comes next, particularly for McLeprechaun. As you know, we've all been told he's going right back to MMA. I mean, I don't know if you can put a date on it, but they're saying, like, apparently the rumor is he is way back to the octagon in the fall or in the winter, in the the end of the year. By the end of the year, he should be defending his title, which he should have done since. And yeah, just give our final thoughts on the whole thing. All right, and we'll also quick rundown and preview of the quarter of the year in MMA and boxing and combat sports in general, because it's going to be exciting. There's going to be huge events. There's going to be like legit events, huge title fights, and there's going to be just like more like what we just saw in kickboxing, especially with Rico Verhoeven and Bigfoot Silva facing. It's not a legit fight, but it's a fun fight. So we're just going to discuss looking forward to in MMA and combat sports and so bear with us, and we both hope you enjoy listening to us.
As an aside, Cyrus, have you heard anything about Rousey practicing with the WWE?
Yeah, I heard things about it. I haven't seen it, but yeah, I heard that yeah, she's well, I mean,
it sounds like she's
apparently
she's going to be a main attraction sometime soon.
Oh, it doesn't surprise me. Like, if she goes into pro wrestling, she will be a superstar. That woman, whatever she does, she'll be a superstar, because people can't help but watch her, and she's like, people are intrigued or fascinated by her in good and in bad. Like, people love Mayweather's Tyson vibe, where good money to either watch her lose or watch her win, or just to see her, to see what she says, to see her behavior, because so yeah, whatever she does. I mean, like, I've seen like she did Drunken History. I actually like that episode, but whether you think she's a good actress or not, people watch her. She brings eyeballs. So yeah, in WWE, that's easy for her, man. She seems to think that's her next move, and if it is, she's gonna destroy it for her, man. Because, like, I mean, look at the numbers she for the UFC. Look where the doors she opened for the UFC. I mean, more than anyone else, she brought the mainstream to she brought the UFC into the mainstream more than anyone else. Like, it's acceptable.
Well, I find it curious that months and months ago there was talk about her possibly doing a WWE thing, and then there was nothing said about it. Then just last week I read something someplace where she's actually been working out with somebody. This isn't just talking or negotiating. She's actually practicing, I guess, for an event. but there hasn't been any kind of a big to do made about it in any of the
Right.
in any of the media.
Right.
I find that curious.
Yeah, well, it's a done deal. Like, it's training with them. She's over there, like they say she is. The deal, right? That means that, like, it's only a matter, like, it's all. It might already be signed. She might already have her deal. She might have already be on the payroll. It's just they're waiting official to make it as big as possible. That's the way I see it. Like, if she's
Well,
already,
that's the way I see it too. But what are they waiting on? What is it exactly they're waiting for?
oh, they love their timing. You know, what's his name? Shane McMahon. He loves his. No, it's not Shane McMahon. It is Shane, right?
Yeah.
Boss there, the Dana White of the pro wrestling world. he likes to, he likes his dramatics. He likes his buffoonery. He likes his, the pyrotechnics. He wants to, he loves his storylines. They're probably hired like 100 writers to write all sorts of storylines and all that stuff. They want to make it as Hollywood as possible. So
yeah,
it's I mean, a huge Ronda fan. So if that's what she does, I hope she makes lots of money. I hope she has fun. I mean, I know for a fact she's a huge fan of the WWE and pro wrestling in general. So, like, it makes sense, doesn't it? Good for her, man. Whatever. This selfish fan for myself, I want to see her return, even if it's just once in MMA. But man, like, whatever, like, I wish her well in all her endeavors. So if that's her next move, good for her. I hope she has fun. Yeah, I mean, they get well paid over there. Like, the big stars, they make some serious money.
I remember when I was a kid,
25.
big time. We called it big time wrestling. That was before WWF and all that crap. And
yeah, I was into those guys. I was into the other ones, WCW, WWF. I like that. The real Ultimate Warriors.
Well, I'm talking about back in the 50s and the 60s.
Oh, that. Yeah. I've seen some stuff. Those were fun too.
Big time wrestling next to baseball. That was, and baseball and football. That was the big thing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, they have the Nacho Libres in Mexico. That's a whole other pro wrestling, and it's wild stuff. I actually enjoy that with the masks and everything, the pageantry. I always enjoyed that.
Oh,
then you have the Japanese stuff. I mean, really, like, pro wrestling today, the Japanese did more for modern pro wrestling than any other culture. Like, they made it look real. They were the ones who set up the storylines. I mean, basically, Pride came from that, but it came from those like, I think it was called Rings. Rings was pro wrestling, look real, with real strikes and real injuries, and it was scripted, but it was real in the sense that it's really interesting. WWE thing, basically, it's a movie being played live. It's how did Brendan Schaub put it? It was one of the best lines ever. He said, "Is athletic soap, but a soap nonetheless. It's the most athletic, physically taxing soap you'll ever see." And it's so true. It's the most physically demanding and athletic soap opera you'll ever see.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. And that nail on the head, that guy. Anyways, well, shall we begin on the greatest fight ever, the most legit fight ever?
Yeah. No, one thing I've noticed about the communities that I'm in and frequent, this morning after the fight, there hasn't been not one single McTapper fan that's had anything to say about the fight. Not one.
Right? Isn't that one thing? Silence.
Yeah.
I mean, it felt like 100 million morons, idiots, drunken fools simps, whatever you want to, whatever active you want to put on these freaking idiots.
Oh God, I'm so
They've
glad
been
that he
shut up.
got beat. For that reason alone, I'm glad he got beat because back
Shut
a
somebody.
couple years ago when McGregor started to make his rounds and in the media, uh,
Mm.
the Irish, they were all over the place and they were blowing their nuts all over the place.
Yeah, yeah.
I used to get in such, I don't know how many people like that, how many communities I quit, just outright quit because I couldn't
Oh,
stand the conversation going on.
no, it's just absolute stupidity. It's stupidity. Like it's actually pickled. Like it's so old. It's been pickled and it's soaked in
Yeah.
warm, lukewarm beer. It's just like for me. The one that I will live in infamy for me was when they did the world tour with Jose Aldo and they stopped in Dublin, Ireland. That was just it
Uh-huh.
was one of the lowest points in MMA for me because it was just like they had no clue because they did not care and like the questions when they had the open for the fans. I mean, there wasn't one person in there that wasn't like soaking wet. It was just like these guys. You would have lit a cigarette. You would have been exhumed. That's how soaking wet. That's how soaked, drenched in alcohol they were. And it was basically 2 hours of just to every kind of disrespect, insult, just pure disrespect for a man who's like one of the greatest of all time. Like they had no respect. They had no clue who he was. He was just some sort of, and like I have to say, like, never a McGregor McLeprechaun fan. I never like. I don't like a hype job. I know a hype job when I've seen one. I mean, like, freaking every sport has hype jobs. That's what it just happens. It's not a problem. But when people start believing the hype and telling you that you have to believe the hype, that you have to respect the hype, that you have to give the hype legitimacy, that's when I have a problem. And I mean,
Yeah.
it has been the worst kind of hype. I mean, it's the most successful, but also the worst hype job ever. I mean, he's been used as a tool, as a weapon for Dana White to undermine, humiliate, and screw over fighters. I mean, it all came to a head when they had that athlete retreat, UFC athlete retreat, and
Yeah.
some drunk
Yeah.
idiot, Anheuser-Busch, basically said the immortal words, be Conor McGregor. You know what I mean? It's like, all right, bitch, you serious? It's, oh God. But
Well,
yeah, I never.
do you
Yeah.
see Floyd giving Conor McGregor another fight?
No, I see Floyd riding off to the sunset. I really do.
Well,
I think he's
I
done.
don't
I think
see
he's done.
I don't see anybody giving Conor McGregor a fight. I really don't, because after watching the little bit that I watched of the fight last night, uh, he can't beat a professional boxer. He just can't. He
Oh, I
hasn't
can
got it.
see plenty of. Oh, I can see plenty of people giving him a fight because he is a draw. Like the UFC did their job. They made him into a draw. They made him into a star. He's not as big a star as like Mr. Dana fucking White would have it. Like he basically said, "Oh, Conor proved that he's the A side to Mayweather," which is just ridiculous. But so there's money, and now more than anything, money rules. Like it rules over honor, it rules over rules, it rules over, you know, any kind of athletic commission apparently, and it rules over any moral respect for a sport. So, I mean, like honestly, I respect Oscar as a fighter, but he really made a fool of himself when he went after this fight because like you have to remember that not even 2 months before he penned that open letter decrying what was a crime against boxing and the purity of the sport.
Yeah.
He'd offered McGregor a fight with Canelo. Sure, him and especially Bob Arum. There's plenty of people that would give him a fight. Like, you know, like, come on, like, and I can't really blame him. If you know, like, you can add like guaranteed 1 million pay-per-view buys if you promote it properly.
Well,
or at least, you know.
okay, but last night you could see as the camera panned around the arena, you could see, and the statistics prove too that it wasn't sold out. Okay.
Oh no.
And I would not be surprised. I mean, who's going to know if they're telling the truth anyway? But I'm sure the PPV wasn't as much as they anticipated either.
You know what? If I'm saying this, but just from what I experienced last night, I think it might actually have broken every single record. I'm telling you, I've never had so much trouble watching a fight. The actual pay-per-view broke down. The fight was an hour late.
I know that, yeah.
That says something, man, because there was trouble on Pacquiao. Pacquiao was crazy. Mayweather-Pacquiao was insane. And they were like they were about an hour late, but even after they postponed it by an hour for Pacquiao, but once they postponed it, they fixed the technical difficulties and everybody could watch no problem. There was no glitches, there was no problems. But last night, I'm not talking about feeds, I'm talking about the pay-per-view itself. Like they had to like the pay-per-view itself like went down. Like the channel went off air.
What are you implying?
That it went that crazy, and it's really stupid. I know the pay-per-view Showtime went down, so I'm thinking like this is what I'm thinking. I mean, okay, I'm going conspiracy theory over here. I think there were so many people that bought pay-per-view that they went off air. Like that's how much. That's just like how many people were watching.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
UFC.com went down. The site went down. Like they couldn't service all the customers, which makes, again, like Bush League. Like Fight Pass is a brilliant thing, but it's almost like they don't believe in their own product. Like they're always telling you, come and watch our fights on Fight Pass. Actually come, they burn out because they don't they haven't set it up well enough to service millions of customers that they want. So it's really weird. It's like they don't believe in their own product.
Are you assuming that, or do you know that?
I actually, no, that's what I'm trying to tell you. I've never had so much trouble trying to watch a fight as last night. It was a nightmare at times. As soon, like the pay-per-view was fine, but as soon as it got close to Mayweather, like around like the how do you say towards the end or the end of the Gervonta Davis fight, it started like glitches, this, that, the other. It went down a couple times and then it just went down. And then they announced like the back by an hour. And even during the fight, there were bugs, like, you know, like moments where the screen freeze and shit like that. It was a nightmare. That's why, like, the first thing I did was watch replays because I wanted to watch it without any breaks. You know? So I look, I'm not saying I'm right. I could be completely wrong. It could have been like a hack job. You know, could have been Russia and Putin. It could have been North Korea. But like that's what I'm thinking, because I've seen big pay-per-views before have trouble because, you know, there's so much demand and they can't service all that demand. But there was trouble at the Pacquiao, and that's like the ultimate record, right? It was like 4.6, 4.7 million. I think they broke that record. I'm pretty convinced. And apparently Floyd was too, because at the press conference, at the post-fight press conference, he said, yeah, I know for a fact we broke my own record tonight. So we'll see, huh? We'll find out in the next couple of days anyways. They're going to start announcing, and we'll find out. But I think, yeah, the pay-per-view, yeah, you're right. It wasn't sold out. It was full. Plenty of people, but it wasn't, the T-Mobile Arena wasn't sold out. That's for sure.
Nope.
But I think the pay-per-view, is going to come out as the biggest monstrosity. So we'll see. We'll see.
Well,
But,
you couldn't prove it by me, pal.
Well, you know what? Like, hey, believe nothing. I have a tattoo on my forearm. So, hey, man, like, you have every right not to believe, because, you know, we're lied to every day. So, you know, it could be, hey, it's all one big conspiracy, isn't it? No, but come on, man. It's like, how can you not believe in conspiracies when this went down last night? And I'm not even I'm not talking about Floyd here. Floyd wants it, and if you give it to him, you know, good for him. I'm talking about the powers that be, the people that are supposed to look out for the sport, the people who, you know, who wield the power, who could have said no to Floyd. I mean, for Christ's sakes, bookies had more integrity at a state athletic commission. Last night, just before the fight, a few hours before the fight, Floyd walked into I forget where. He didn't say where, but he tried to put a bet. He's allowed.
Yeah, I read that.
400,000, and they told him basically no, no way.
Yeah, and he said he was betting. He was willing to bet that he would end the fight in 9.5 rounds too. Isn't that a hell of a coincidence?
Right. Take that. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Floyd could have ended that fight whenever he wanted to.
Exactly. Okay, now let's get to the meat and potatoes of this thing. Right. Okay, your thoughts, like the performance, the fight. Like, are you one of those who believes that, you know, was robbed? Like the referee robbed?
No, I think the way the fight went is how I anticipated it. I anticipated, and now keep in mind that I'm not a boxing aficionado. In fact, I'm relatively new to the sport. But I figured that that Mayweather would let Conor throw punches and he'd fend him off, because let's face it, Mayweather is a great defensive boxer, and he was going to let Conor do that kind of thing and wear himself out, because we all know that Conor can't go 12 rounds with anybody. So that was the safe play, and that's exactly what Floyd did. I think he did it. I think he planned it. Excuse me. I think he planned safely to do that, because he's done it before in the past, and he knows that that was the safest way to safeguard his perfect record. And it worked. Yeah. It worked. Now, we all know that when you go in after somebody, when you're aggressive after someone, you take a chance, and you take chances that you're going to lose. You either get pinned in wrestling, or you get knocked out in boxing, or whatever. Things like that happen. But Floyd chose not to do that. He chose to protect his undefeated record. And he did. And that's exactly what he did. Plus, he gave everybody their money's worth. They got 9.5 rounds of boxing, you know, so.
Jeez, yeah. I saw an exhibition.
And yeah, an exhibition. That's what it is. Now he's got a 50-0 record. Well, in several postings that I made in several communities today, people had postings up of depicting Mayweather's perfect record, 50-0. Well, I wrote 50-0 with an asterisk, because that's what it is. It's exactly like Bobby Bonds' home run record. You know,
yeah, fair enough.
Or Mark McGwire's single-season home run record. It's got a big asterisk beside it, because they cheated.
Asterisks via Mexican supplements. It was still fun while witnessing those two.
He can, as far as I'm concerned, if Floyd wants to say he's got a 50-0 record, fine. I don't give a shit. But in my heart,
he's earned it.
He fought a novice boxer and got that even 50 number. We all know what it is. So,
no, let's be honest. He fought a rent boy. It's not even a novice. It's just a rent boy. It's a hype job. It's nonsense. Like, you know, a novice boxer I don't know. Well, no, I wouldn't call Stipe or the Diaz brothers novices because they've actually boxed. The Diaz brothers boxed on an amateur level, and Stipe actually boxed. I think on a he had like one of the pro fights. Like he's a Golden Gloves champion. So is Cody Garbrandt. So they're not novices, but like it's a novice boxer would be someone like I don't know. I don't know, like an amateur. That's a novice, right? Rank amateur.
And that's exactly what Conor McGregor is.
Exactly. Well, yeah,
he didn't have a boxing license. He didn't have a boxing license until he decided to take this fight.
Now, after his performance last night, it was just that bad. That's an insult to novice boxers because he never even tried to box. Like, I mean, when Mayweather would let him hit him, yeah, okay, he threw a decent jab and all that, but as soon as he got put under any kind of pressure, he tried to grapple him. He had his arms. He actually reached out and grabbed him. I've hammer fists, turning him, maneuvering around the back of his body to hit him in the back of the head, punching him when the ref was stopped the fight and was admonishing Mickle blows and then throwing a punch when the referee had stopped the fight, which is grounds for dismissal. I mean, like, I'm going to tell you straight, like, basically his performance was just pathetic. It really was. Like, I'm with Floyd Sr. here. It was the most pathetic. I mean, after all the
Cyrus, did you see that uppercut that McGregor hit Mayweather with? Did you see that?
Yeah, more to the point, I saw the uppercut that Mayweather
it didn't do a thing to him. It didn't do anything to him.
Because Floyd has one of the greatest chins ever. Like when people say Floyd is a great defensive fighter, it's disrespectful. It's an insult to Floyd. Floyd is a great boxer. Floyd, okay, in my opinion, this is my personal opinion, greatest boxer that's ever lived. But he's definitely one of the top 5 pound for pound. It's inarguable. You can't argue that. You can't argue that he's the greatest because everybody has their greatest, right? So most people, which I could completely do with, believe Muhammad Ali is the greatest. Some people even believe Tyson is the greatest. I completely disagree with that too. Some believe Jack Armstrong was the greatest. Some believe Jack Johnson was the greatest. Some believe Jack Johnson is the greatest. Those are 2 legit arguments. They're both legit. Listen to those arguments. Some believe Sugar Ray Robinson was the greatest. I mean, I'll even listen to people saying Sugar Ray Leonard is the greatest because he was just that amazing. Even though he fought a bit long, he lost to guys he should have never lost to. I'll listen to because that guy is amazing. Like he probably has. I mean, until Lomachenko came along, probably the greatest amateur boxer that's ever lived. I mean, the guy was prolific, and as a professional, he did he did work. There's a lot of, there's a lot of legit argument greatest ever. I mean, Joe Louis was the greatest that's ever lived, There are a lot. I mean, come on. Boxing is an ancient sport, and there's plenty of great boxers. I mean, and we're talking about the ones who lived through the era where you could actually record video. There's boxers that you get to see on screen, but like when you read about them, these guys were amazing. Gentleman Jim. You can watch his videos in black and white on YouTube. That guy was an amazing champion. But 50-0 should, like that last fight should have an asterisk by way of Rent Boy. But however, I do find it hypocritical when people use Rocky Marciano to criticize Floyd, because Rocky Marciano was an excellent fighter. He was known for fighting tomato cans. I'm all right with him being in the Hall of Fame because he beat Joe Louis twice. Joe Louis is one of the greatest to ever do it. So anybody who beats Joe Louis even once deserves respect, but he beat him twice. 2-0 against arguably the greatest heavyweight of all time. Okay, he was maybe past his best, but it's still an achievement. But I mean, for Christ's sakes, Rocky Marciano, there's a very good chance that one of those 49 fights was against his own brother. There's a rumor, and apparently it's quite founded, that one of the 49-0 own brother, who changed his name so it wouldn't look so worked. But yeah, and I'm not dumping all over Rocky Marciano. I actually like the guy. The guy had
I don't
skills.
I don't think it's fair to compare Floyd Mayweather against Rocky Marciano for any number of reasons. One reason is they're not even the same weight class. They were decades apart when boxing was a completely different thing. When Marciano fought, it's like comparing Joe Montana against Joe Namath or somebody else, some other great quarterback, or Peyton Manning. It's pointless to compare people like that. For one thing, you have no concrete point of reference. And number two, oftentimes people are comparing athletes from different decades. And let's face it, back when I made a visit to Ulysses S. Grant's house in Illinois one time. And I saw all the bedrooms and all the beds in the bedrooms. And the beds were all short. They were like 8 inches shorter than any bed that any of us use today. And I asked the tour guide, I said, why are the beds so small? And she said, well, people were small back then. And then I did some study, and I did some reading since then. And we as Americans, we're all getting bigger. We're all getting bigger. We're getting healthier. We're more powerful.
Food.
We're more vibrant.
Nutrition.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And for any number of reasons, we are different people today than we were 150 years ago. Any number of reasons.
Just the meat we eat. It's so full. I mean, let's be honest. Steroids. Of course, you're bigger, faster, stronger.
So if you want to compare Red Grange to even Jim Brown, that's a futile thing to do. That's silliness. It's complete total silliness.
I agree. What you can't compare is the technique. Comparing, and the drive, the heart, that you can compare. But size, speed, all that, no, that's bullshit. You can't do it. But I will compare techniques. I will compare heart, because the heart of a champion is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And but I agree. It's not fair. Look at the heavyweights from back then. Look at Joe Louis. Joe Louis could probably fight at lightweight nowadays.
Yeah.
Pardon me. Middle or super middleweight.
Yeah.
Easily. He'd be a tiny heavyweight nowadays. Just like MMA is a very young sport, but when you look at the light heavyweight champion, like someone like Frank Shamrock was light heavyweight champion. Even back then he was undersized, but you look at Frank Shamrock. Nowadays, when you look at light heavyweights, he'd be a welterweight today. It shows you how good he was. Look at someone like Luke Rockhold. He was middleweight champion. He was, the legit, and I believe he's the best middleweight today. Fuck Michael Bisping. And you look at his size, his length, the power he generates. The man is a light heavyweight, and he could easily fight a heavyweight if he wanted. Basically, he'd been taller and bigger and longer than any heavyweight 15, 20 years ago. Just think about that. I remember Tito Ortiz was a freak because he was massive at light heavyweight. The guy's in size and weight, he's a legit heavyweight. 6'3" or something. Big old head. Yeah, everybody's getting there. We're constantly getting bigger. We're getting taller. We're getting faster. Now you got 300-pound behemoths in the NFL. Do spinning backflips and are freakishly athletic and freakishly fast, can outrun pretty much anybody. Pounds. Look at it JJ Watts. That guy's a freak. And I say this in as a compliment, man. The guy's a freak human being. See anybody like that back in the day? You just didn't. Like back in the day, you had tall, huge, freakishly big people, but they did not move like J.J. Watt does. They couldn't do, do the same things J.J. Watt does. I mean, probably the most stunning thing, one of the most stunning things you'll ever see. It's also very uncomfortable to watch. Is the every year, it's just like they get more and more freakish every year. It's just crazy. So yeah, I mean, the performance, man, it was just it wasn't good. It was not good at all. I mean, basically, I honestly believed, and I believe I was proven right, just with a little difference. I call from the beginning when the fight was made official, and people started losing their minds over it. I said, this fight is going to be a mix of the Ricky Hatton fight, Floyd Mayweather, Ricky Hatton, and Floyd Mayweather, Arturo Gatti, in the sense that he's going to walk through him. It's going to be the first time we're going to see Floyd literally walk through space since, a long time. He's going to be offensive.
Yeah.
He wants to make leprechaun. What I predicted was also McGregor wouldn't be able to touch him even once. And I still maintain
I heard
Mayweather
and I heard a remark this morning from a fellow that I consider pretty knowledgeable about boxing, right. And he characterized Mayweather's performance last night as headhunting. And after he said that, I thought, he's right. That's what Floyd was doing. Floyd was playing with McGregor and hitting him when he could, staying away from him, setting him up, whacking him. I mean, I don't know how many replays I saw on the television here this morning of Floyd's right hand going right in between McGregor's gloves and hitting him right in the nose.
You're absolutely right. But you know what? More to the point, what happened last night, what I witnessed last night, what like most of these so-called journalists did not, was Floyd carried McGregor. He allowed him to do what he did. Everything landed, any kind of like seeming success or strike or punch he landed was allowed by Floyd. Floyd did what he wanted, and he let McGregor, gave him every large aspect. I mean, let's look at the big picture here. He gave him every single advantage. He gave him every concession. Like, I mean, even from the gloves to the weight, the commentary team were very, very like almost biased towards McLeprechaun, and Floyd controls everything. The ref is the most important, and I don't want to speak ill of Robert Byrd, but Robert Byrd is a Hall of Fame ref. He knows boxing. He's very good at what he does, but he's also famous for one thing, is that he is the ref. He's the favorite. He's the best ref for an underdog or a brawler. Will be aggressive. They will constantly step on that line of what's legal and illegal, and he never even came close to warning McGregor, and he much less like reducing a point, like deducting a point. He could have deducted like 3 or 4 points, because every time they were in the clinch, McGregor would do like absolute no-nos, like punch in the back of the head, hammer fist to the head. At one point in rounds, was it round 10? The beginning of round 10. And I mean, he did it multiple times. So that was the one I noticed the most, because stave off the inevitable, but he actually grabbed head to hold him in place so he could punch him. That's how desperate he was. And the ref told him to stop, but he never even stopped him and took a point away. He could have taken a point away. He could have disqualified him. Pretty much everything he did was illegal. He was every round. He threw a ton of illegal strikes, and I mean, main commentator was Brian Kenny, and Brian Kenny is known for being no friend of Floyd. Usually, the usual commentary team would be Mauro Ranallo or people like that, people who love boxing and who are unbiased. Was biased against Mayweather. He's never liked Mayweather. When Brian Kenny used to work for, if I remember properly, ESPN, and he had plenty of run-ins with Floyd, and they don't like each other, but he was the one commentating last night, it shows like he set it up so Mayweather set it up so McGregor would feel as comfortable as possible. He gave him the gloves he wanted. McGregor still couldn't do shit. And on the contrary, he got his ass handed to him. And it was embarrassing, and it was beautiful performance by Floyd. But what I'm saying is, it was crazy. I've never seen Floyd fight so slow. Like, he fought like the challenger. He walked him down. That's what challengers, 9 times out of 10, a challenger will do, because he's going after the champ, knock him out. The challenger, 9 times out of 10, will have to knock him out because, you can't leave it in the hands of the judges. And, the age-old adage, which I completely agree with, the champion, you have to beat the champion. You have to knock him out or make him suffer or make, take a hand of the judges. And Mayweather fought that way last night. He walked through McLeprechaun. He toyed with him. He let McLeprechaun have his fun. He let McLeprechaun even tee off. He let him hit him with his best shots. Stood there and let that very slow, uncultured left hand of McGregor's land multiple shots on him. He allowed him to land a huge uppercut in the first few rounds. And when it was time, round 7 onwards, he started hurting him. He started beating on him. Round 10, the ref had to stop the fight and save McGregor's brain and his blushes and his embarrassment, because he was going out. The man was out on his feet. He was punch drunk. It was a fun fight to watch, but it's just like you shouldn't even be calling it a fight right now, because it wasn't a fight.
I thought the ref let the fight go. I thought he let it go like 15 seconds longer than he should have.
Well, it's a matter of perspective. A lot, like, I thought that he could have let him take a few more lumps just for good measure, because basically he's much of a jackass ever since the fight was announced. That's another thing. Like, Paulie Malignaggi be upset and even be biased towards Mayweather. I mean, they're friends, for Christ's sakes. But after the way McLeprechaun and Dana White and the UFC treated him, he has every right to be angry. But Paulie Malignaggi said something very interesting. He said it's not that he's a classless guy. It's not that he's a dirty fighter. It's not that he underestimates his opponent, which he does. He underestimated Floyd big time. He disrespected Floyd. But he said this thing, and it was brilliant. He said it's that McLeprechaun overestimates himself as a man, as a fighter, and he overestimates his abilities to fight. I mean, he's listening, he's drunk his own cool, believing his own hype, and that's just that's never a good thing. Like, times have we heard?
Well, does that make you feel sympathy for him?
Not really. Not after the way he treated Paulie.
Me either.
You can be full of your own self. You can be believing your own hype. I don't have a problem. I mean, it's not good, because that makes you get for a fall and for all kinds of abuse and to get caught. But because of the way he treated Paulie, the way he thinks it's acceptable to treat people who help him, people who are there for him, like shit, basically. And no, like, whatever's going to happen to him, and he brought it on his own head. Nobody's making him fight, so he can quit whenever he wants. Like, there's some people out there still, shockingly, who fight because they don't have a choice. They're being made to fight, and Leprechaun, I have very little sympathy. The man is going to make a ton of reserves, more money. Well, I won't say that. More money than he's ever made in his entire life or ever will make. And you know, like good for him. I don't begrudge him his money, but don't ask me to feel sorry for him or to write some ridiculous homage letter like you told me about earlier off air about how great he was and how he won a moral victory.
He's not great.
He's not great. You're not great, and he's not a champion either. You're not a champion until you've defended. You're not a champion until you've, you know, confirmed it. You have to at least defend it. And I'll call you a champion even if you lose in your first title defense. It's that you accepted, you know, title. So I'll respect that. But he's never even come close to doing booking himself for a title defense ever. I mean, he won 2 titles in Cage Warriors, and he never defended them. 2 titles in the UFC, and should have been stripped of both of them because he just refused to defend them. He's running and ducking people like Khabib, Ferguson. I bet you given half a chance, he'd duck Kevin Lee as well, which he kind of already has, because Dana White actually came out yesterday. They backtracked and said something to the effect of even though the Tony Ferguson versus Kevin Lee, it's for the interim lightweight title, but interim lightweight title means, or any kind of title, any interim title means officially the number 1 contender for the belt.
Yeah, so why is Ferguson even fighting anybody? He must need the money.
Why? Yeah. Why did Yoel Romero and Robert Whittaker duke it out when it should have been a real title fight? But they fought for the interim because this is the new era. This is the new ME era where it's all about personality and how much you can talk. They allowed Michael the Cunt Bisping to actually a whole division. He's literally the last, since the year and a half that basically it's about just over a year and 2 months that he won the middleweight title, ducking every single anybody in the top 10 shamelessly. So yeah, I mean, just to get back on topic because we're going off here. It was a terrible performance by Mayweather. By McLeprechaun, and Mayweather was just amazing. Like, I've never seen him fight that way. I've seen him fight aggressive, and I've seen him, remember his knockout ratio was 90% or close enough. Amazing knockout ratio. But then, the better he got, the better the quality of the opposition got. The knockouts weren't as prolific because basically, if you're going to be a champion, a long-reigning champion, you can't look for the knockout. That's what we touched on in the last podcast episode yesterday. But a long-term champ, you have to be smart. You have to preserve yourself. You have to, you have to win the fight, but you also, you can't go looking for the knockout. You can't headhunt. Basically, a friend of mine, who's also my neighbor, called it, and he called it brilliantly. He Mayweather by technical knockout via body shots. And boy, Mayweather took him to town on the body shots. And basically, even though it ended up being a TKO because Mayweather was teeing off on him, what opened them up in the first place was the body shots, multiple times to the body. And that's why eventually he gassed. He gassed and he quit. I mean, he didn't, he was stopped because of the body shots. He couldn't take it anymore. He couldn't breathe. Look, punch, and it's ridiculous. It's just it was a masterclass by Floyd. But then again, what do you expect versus a guy that's both delusional and even close to stepping in with any halfway decent boxer? So, and what I loved is that Mayweather purposely, willfully allowed McLeprechaun to tee off, and actually just to prove something, that it's not because he's so hard to reach, or hard to punch, strike that he doesn't have a chin. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got any thoughts?
Well,
Or
what's
should we
been running through my mind is I'd like, of course, uh, I'd like to see McGregor defend his title, but
Absolutely.
I don't know if Dana's gonna rig that up or not. But what I'd really like to see is I'd like to see uh, Conor McGregor and Nate Diaz #3. That's what I'd like to see.
Same here. Same here. But first, I'd like to see him, because that fight is so huge. Nate is such a star that they don't even need to fight for titles. Just like last night, Mayweather is such a huge. The belts don't even matter. Like, for a fun fight, it was a money fight, but it was also a fun fight. It was a fantasy fight, and there's nothing wrong with it. Like, my biggest issue with this fight was, McLeprechaun, had no business in the same ring or cage as. But that I absolutely agree. We need to see the trilogy come to an end. But that fight doesn't need to be. But what I prefer to see, like, I really want to see that fight really bad. But I'd like to see him being made to defend his title for the first time in his career. It's not makes the UFC look bad. I mean, it makes the sport look bad. So I'd like him to defend against either Tony Ferguson or Khabib, probably, because he was unlucky. He couldn't face. He couldn't make it to the cage against Tony. So
I wouldn't put Khabib up. You can't trust the guy to show up. I'd make it against Ferguson. Ferguson's
earned it.
Yeah, he's earned it, and he's available.
He's awesome. Like, he's being made to fight an awkward fighter called Kevin Lee, who I really like. But, like, that's not cool what they did to Tony. They did not treat him right. Like, they didn't even pay him.
Tony got treated badly.
And he needs, and I'm a huge fan of El Kukui. I love watching him. I like the guy. I mean, like, I don't know him personally, so of course, like, but he comes across as a really genuine guy, really intense, a little crazy, but I love crazy people. And he comes across as a really cool dude, and he deserves good things to happen to him. He deserves his, Mayweather fight. This thing you'll get to a Mayweather fight in the UFC is McLeprechaun, because they made him into a superstar. So I want him to get paid, and I want him to win that belt, because I have no doubt in my mind he will be champion if he fights for the belt. The thing is, the other thing is once and for all, that whole myth of, Conor touches them, they go down, has been put. We can put that to rest, because that was bullshit from the beginning. Like, and you know what? Actually, I'm also really happy that once and for all, it's been proven Mayweather punches harder than McGregor. He punches harder than McGregor. The only reason Mayweather than McGregor. It's been proven. Look at last night. Look at the strikes. Like Mayweather kept walking forwards for the first time in years. He walked straight through somebody, right? Mm-hmm. It's because you don't need to worry about the strikes. Like, whatever the guy's throwing at you, it's not hard enough to reach you. Hands down, and literally let McGregor hit him as hard as he could. Like, all he did was smile. Like, he caught in the very first round, he allowed him to catch him with a beautiful uppercut, and then blink. Like, of course, his head shook, because he's hitting him hard. It's an uppercut. And he also allowed him to catch him with the famous left hand multiple times. 9. And look what happened. Like, look what Mayweather did to McGregor. He schooled him. He beat that ass. Every way, shape, and form. He out-cardioed him, but he also hurt him. He hurt him to the body. Like, he hurt him to the body so bad. Like, it looked like McGregor was throwing a knee strike, but he was just going to turtle up and protect his body. Yeah, how about we
Well,
talk?
I think Tony beats him,
Oh
and
my God, easily.
I think Russian beats him, and I
Yeah,
think there's any number of guys that can beat McGregor. But McGregor hasn't defended his titles because he doesn't want to tangle with these guys.
yeah. Anybody, any top 10 in the UFC would beat McGregor. They really would. Like, there are featherweights that would beat him at lightweight because they're more complete. And the only question mark I'd have on, like Kevin Lee, if Kevin Lee were to fight McGregor, I'd pick Kevin Lee. The only question mark I'd have is Kevin Lee is just such a warrior and he gets so excited about fighting. Sometimes he's not very careful. Like he gets caught by a really good lightweight, and I can't remember
Yeah,
his name. He's a black
like
belt.
Bitch been caught. What's his name?
Anybody can be caught. It's a 4-ounce glove, right? Careful. If you don't take your head off the center line and you keep walking straight into somebody, you can get caught. And that's what happened to Kevin Lee. That doesn't change the fact that he's an amazing fighter, an amazing wrestler, and he could ass off. The only thing is, like so many excellent fighters that he fought, like some of the elite fighters, they listened to what he had to say. They listened to his bullshit, and they let it get to the point where they fought the most way possible. Basically, that's one of the greatest gifts. He'll get under your skin and piss you off so bad that you'll fight dumb, and you'll fight the exact fight that he needs you to fight to win. And that's a gift. That's an amazing gift. Like he did to Eddie Alvarez, of all people. Eddie Alvarez is one of the greatest lightweights that's ever lived. He's one of the most savvy, intelligent. He's a warrior as well. That's why he gets caught a lot, but that doesn't matter. He knows fighting. He knows, he's a career-long greatest lightweights that's ever lived, and he fought like an absolute amateur that night when he lost his title. So, it's McGregor. He just makes he makes these guys, they're not careful. It happened to Poirier. It happened to so many others. And that's the only question mark I'd have about Kevin Lee. But I'd definitely pick Kevin Lee over McLeprechaun. I'd pick Khabib. I mean, Khabib and Tony are the two worst matchups in MMA. And they wouldn't just beat him. They'd steal his soul. They make him quit.
Well,
Just like
Dana hasn't arranged the fights between McGregor and these guys you just mentioned. And there's a reason for it, because they're going to beat him. That's why.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And in the meantime, since he hasn't arranged for McGregor to be defeated, look what's happened. McGregor has made a shitload of money for the UFC.
Oh my God, yeah. It's like it's unbelievable. But then the UFC built him. They built him from scratch.
I don't care what any of these Irish people say.
Yeah, it's not even Irish.
McGregor is a good fighter. He's a real fighter. He is, but he's not the best. Not by any stretch of the imagination. He just has a big fucking mouth. That's it.
Now he's a very talented fighter, but he's not a complete fighter. And he's not a complete mixed martial artist. And I wouldn't
anybody that gets him down on the canvas owns his ass.
Absolutely. And he's not a good boxer either. He's not the puncher they try and make him out to be. Like they tried to say, oh yeah, he could knock out a heavyweight. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, shit.
Please give me a break with the 170-pound Irish gorilla. Please. Like if anybody's a gorilla, you want to see what a human gorilla looks like? Look at Shane Carl. He looked like a white shaved down gorilla. That's a gorilla. That's a scary looking motherfucker. And he should have been world champion. It's just, Shane Carwin is one of the most unreal looking human beings ever. I love the dude, but he was believable to it's just like his hands, his fists were bigger than my head. And I'm not I've got a size head, but this guy was just unreal. That's a gorilla. Mark
You know,
Hunt is a gorilla.
I saw a picture back in the 60s in Sports
Mhm.
Illustrated magazine of the actual
Right.
size of Muhammad Ali's clenched fist. I couldn't
Yeah.
believe it. It was as big as the baseball glove I used.
Jesus. Yeah. Well. Yeah. Like some people have, like freakishly, some people are just big people. So, that's why he was a heavyweight. Like he was a heavyweight world champion. He was like like the best. They work hard, but they're also given amazing gifts. It's what you do with them. Like there's been a lot of guys who flamed out who are like made to be champions. They were built. They were born to be champions because of the way they're built. It's the size of their heads, the size of their fists, the speed they have. Like Mayweather, physical attribute to be a champion. But that's not why he's a champion. That's why he's not the greatest ever. That's not why he's the greatest ever. The reason he's the greatest ever is that he worked harder than anybody. And that's one thing that's my favorite Floyd Mayweather video, like interview or whatever you want to call it. He goes on this rant about I'm the best because I work harder than anybody else. I put my time in the gym, and you can see the pride he has. He gets really aggressive about it. He says, I'm the best, not because I'm faster, not because I hit harder, not because I'm better at, this or that. It's because I work hard. Talents and my speed and my timing for my natural attributes for granted. I work hard. I work harder than anybody else. And that's why Michael Jordan is the GOAT. That's why, in my humble opinion, is the greatest boxer ever lived, because he puts time. He's never out of shape. He's been retired for 2.5 years. He never was out of shape. He never stopped training.
Yeah. And last night he ran McGregor into the dirt.
Exactly. And he's 11 or 12 years older than McGregor. McGregor, for all intents and purposes, is at his physical peak. He's in his prime. Like, and it's not just like he hit him. It's he out, like he had more heart, he had more cardio. Like he had more power, he was stronger. I love the way they on and on about how much bigger McGregor was than Floyd, and it's true. He's a lot taller and he's longer, but it didn't matter. All that worked against him. He out hustled him. He out,
Yep.
like he out muscled him, but he had more grind. He was the one walking him down. What everybody expected McGregor to do. McGregor was the one.
Takes a lot of gas to run a big body like that.
Exactly, and it's also, like Mayweather literally ran right through him, and like I have the fight on small screen as we speak, so I can see it, and he's literally walking him down. Something Mayweather. It's just not Mayweather's game, but he changed his game, and he allowed him. He let McGregor, basically he carried McGregor. What would happen if Gaye and Ricky Martin had a duet? Marvin Gaye would carry Martin's ass, because Ricky Martin, un, dos, tres, whatever you want to call him, he's not in the same class. And Mayweather was very accommodating. From round 7 onwards, he just shut him down and just started hurting him and made him, like just exposed him. He basically did everything McGregor, but like that gasoline on him and set him on fire. But everything else he did, he walked him down through him.
Well, you're a mean motherfucker, aren't you?
I've got my, but like after, like I have to say, like I was never a fan, but I didn't actively dislike him. I disliked his fans because they have no class. They have no, and I'm not even going to say it's the Irish, because Irish make great fight fans, and I love the Irish. I have a lot of Irish friends. I love that people, but I'm talking about Mick Leprechaun fans, and they're not even Irish. Like a lot of them are, he's got fans all over North America. He's got fans in England. Fans. I'm not talking about McGregor fans. I'm not talking about McGregor MMA fans. I'm talking about Mick Leprechaun fans who are only there to live like douchebags through him are just the worst. They're just like, it's a disgrace to the sport. They know nothing about the sport, and when he finally leaves, whenever he leaves, he'll take him with them. He'll take them with him, and they will not be missed because they are ignorant. They don't know nothing. It's embarrassing listening to some of the things they say, like,
Oh, they do know something. They know how to drink beer and talk smart. But I know any number of rednecks down here at the local watering hole that know how to do that.
Oh yeah, they'll tell you, Dolly Parton, the greatest. Oh no, I'm not gonna say I love Dolly. She's awesome. She's a nice lady, but they'll tell you WWE is real. It's absolutely real. There's some guys that over there, God bless them, they actually bet on they bet on pro wrestling. Like, you got to be a special and stupid to do that. I mean, you're betting on a worked athletic.
Oh, that's something that we haven't touched on, and I haven't read anything about. But
right.
Vegas made out on this puppy.
Did they? Because like they hundreds of millions were bet on. It was unbelievable. But you know what? At the same time, like, the odds, if the odds are that good, you might as well put a couple bucks. But people bet serious money on. I couldn't believe it. But yeah, well, what do you want? We discussed well, the term loosely, but the performance of the journalists, like the reaction to the fight, and particularly to Mick Lecon's performance. And because like we were talking off air, and you mentioned, and you were absolutely right, that every post-fight breakdown you read on ESPN or any kind of the MMA or boxing combat sports website was very complimentary to McGregor and his heart and pride and whatever performance. It was because like we both, I believe we both see it a bit differently.
Well, McGregor is easy to promote because he does his own talking. He's got, he's great at it. So he's good for promoters. He's good for ESPN. He's good for guys like Stephen A. Smith, who likes to talk his fucking mouth off his face.
Oh, jeez. Don't get me started on him.
That guy, I'm telling you, they need to keep Stephen A. Smith the hell out of boxing.
They need to keep the hell out of.
Oh, jeez. That guy is.
Tom.
He disgusts the living shit out of me.
He is. He's a disgusting human being. Like, everybody's his brother, but then call your brother, but that's the worst thing you can do, because that means he's about to throw you under the bus. Like, this man's a brother. Now, let me tell you, I know for a fact that this man, this brother here.
Yeah.
I mean, you follow basketball, Jim. Remember what he did to Kevin Durant? Like, he basically spoke of Kevin Durant. He's a respectable human being, and he's one of the greatest basketball players of his day, and he will go down as one of the all-time greats. And he spoke of Kevin Durant like a piece of property, like if of an Uncle Tom. Basically, the guy is not a journalist. He's the professional gossiper. He's a professional.
He belongs on The Talk. He belongs on that television show, The Talk, with all them women. That's exactly where he belongs.
Basically, First Take, it started off serious, not semi-serious, which, they're fun, but then it devolved into The Talk. It was The Talk on ESPN with Skip and Stephen A. Smith. And it takes a lot for Skip to be the serious one, to be the less douchey one, right? Because he's been douching it up for years. But the thing was, Skip was more reasonable, because Skip obviously kills things tongue in cheek. He doesn't actually believe them. Stephen A. Smith is a true believer. And basically that day, he said he was basically running his mouth, saying things he had no business saying. stepped the boundary. And Kevin Durant just said, listen, don't listen to Stephen A. He has no right to talk about my personal life. And it's none of his business what I do with my career. And he's just lying to you. He basically said what Stephen A. Smith said. And it was a lie because he said that to Kevin Durant, like that's like it was like 6 months before he had eventually left Oklahoma, you know, the Thunder, and signed with the Golden State Warriors. But he basically claimed that he's with Kevin Durant, and Kevin had told him that he was going to push for a move to the Lakers, which is obviously a lie because he never had any intention of signing with the Lakers. And Kevin basically said, like, he shouldn't have said that. It's a lie. He made that up. And the very next day, basically threatened him live on air. I know your secrets. I know embarrassing stuff about you. And, like, you know, basically spoke of Kevin Durant as he was his property. And, like, I have a right to report anything about you. And, like, if you ever, you know, question my right to gossip about you, I will spill your secrets. Like, I know embarrassing shit. It was embarrassing. It was disgusting. And even the way he's about, you know, he's always going on about how he's a black man and this and that. No, you know,
well, he's, you know, compared to Skip, Bayless is nothing at all like a racist. But Stephen A. Smith is a fucking racist.
He is. He's an Uncle Tom. The way he talks about like he'll come up with he's also a sexist. Like, he was the one who, and I'm no feminist, you know, or male feminist or simp or, you know, one of, you know, male apologist or whatever you want to call it. But for him to say the things he said, like after the Ray Rice incident, like, oh yeah, some females bring it on themselves. They need to be careful because, you know, like, disgusting thing ever. And the way he tried to put two women up against each other, like, because in the 2016 NBA Finals, Stephen Curry's wife basically called, like everybody else saw, anybody with a brain saw that they basically did their best to hand King James, Dorothy, aka Dorothy, there's no place like home, James, LeBron. They did everything in their power to hand it to him. They should have never suspended whatever. But Stephen Curry's wife basically, you know, like she told it like it was, like, you know, it's shameful. And he said, oh, she needs to be more like LeBron James's wife. And basically what he was trying to say is you never hear from LeBron James's wife, which, you know what, and by definition is as sexist as you get, trying to use one woman to castigate another, which is disgusting.
Yep.
You know,
yeah, but see, Stephen A. Smith can get away with shit like that because if you confront him on it, he'll accuse you of being a fucking racist.
Of course, but you know, like, that's just the way it is, you know. And you know, you true temper, man. Don't you realize, like, you're not allowed to say the truth. You know, we're not talking. Your facts are racist, my friend. Didn't you know that?
What?
Facts are racist. What? Did you hear me?
Yeah, I heard you. No, I heard you.
No, we literally live in idiocracy, like that 2006.
Now this double standard shit. I'm sick of this double standard shit. I'm puking over it. I'm tired of it. Had enough.
No, we're past double standards. We're living in the era of triple, quadruple.
Yeah.
You know, like,
no kidding.
You know, every kind of standard. Like, there is no standards. We're in idiocracy, you know.
He who can yell the loudest and yell last wins.
Exactly.
I just described Conor McGregor.
You meet a 700-pound obese woman. She's not obese. She's not even fat. She's just, and there's plenty of her to love. And she's sexy. Yes. No.
Who are you talking about? Who are you talking about?
No one in. I'm just saying. this new age shit of you know, like you're not allowed to call a spade a spade. Like if you made a 500-pound woman, she's not obese, she's not even fat, she's just beautiful, she's sexy. That's sexy. That's a healthy, sexy woman. You know what I'm talking about.
All right, then.
No,
All right.
but anyways, basically, like in that spirit, like the reactions, the post-fight reactions to Nick Leprechaun in particular, after he got his ass handed to him by it's like people have an inability to before their very eyes live and understand what just happened. Like basically it was so obvious. Mayweather allowed to hit him, to, you know, he carried him for like 2-3 rounds and he let him have his fun. And then right around the 7th round, he started. And by the 10th round, he was done. But then, you know, the whole most of the post-fight commentary, the storyline basically was oh, McGregor actually did so well. He outboxed Mayweather. He was winning. He was probably ahead on all the judges. He should have been ahead on the Georgia scorecards. Never had a chance. He was never in the fight. And you know, like McGregor himself, it was like the longer it went on, like you can tell he got concussed. He got concussed, and he was getting beaten to death. But then, like, capable of even like admitting or giving Mayweather his respect. He what was his comments? He was like, "Oh yeah, he's focused. He's focused. He doesn't hit. That's all he is. He's focused. He's focused." The guy got his ass handed to him. He was what we call, you know, in boxing parlance, he was on Queer Street, old school, like homophobia. This is just what we call it. Like when a guy can't stand properly, he was on drunk Queer Street. He was done, and like all people could talk about was, "Oh my God, what a performance by May." Are you impressed with the fact that he took so many punches that he probably can't remember his own name this morning? Impressed with the fact that he talked himself into, like, he taught himself basically the referee robbed him of his greatest win. Like he actually, like the last video I saw of him after the press conference, Ariel Helwani on his way, you know, out of the T-Mobile arena, and it's a 3-minute video, and it's just unbelievable. It's like basically he tells Ariel Helwani that, you know, he had Floyd right where he wanted him. And, he was ready to, you know, turn it on, and he was like, I know he was hitting me and he was hurting me, but, you know, like this should have happened in rounds 9 to 12. 9 to 12 been shut down for good, and you would be your poor son would be changing your diapers at age 10. Like this is where you were headed. This is how this story ends. Like the referee saved your bacon embarrassment, and he saved your brain cells because you were taking a beating. It was nasty. It wasn't just that he was getting hit. He was getting hit at the wrong moments. He was getting hit when his head was swinging from side to side. Like, I mean, he's saying, and the most ludicrous thing about that video is not even what's coming out of his mouth, which is just absolute nonsense. He's leaning on his mother. He's got the biggest pair of sunglasses because, you know, he's going cross-eyed. You know, his eyes are out of focus and they're going cross-eyed. You know what I mean? Like,
piss on.
Jesus Christ. Nonsense. And then for so-called professional journalists to not even be able to relay what happened properly, oh Jesus, it's just pathetic. Like,
yep.
Like I'm watching it right now as we speak. I'm watching the finish. The guy fell into the only reason he didn't fall flat on his ass and land on his head was because he fell against the ropes. And when Floyd hit him with the left hook, he literally turned him around. Like his back was his back was almost
Yeah, just like in a movie.
exactly like he spun him around. So, and the only thing that stopped him from completely spinning around is his glove got caught. So, you know, like the ropes. So, you know, give me a break. Like that, it was a brilliant performance by Floyd, which, you know, of course, it had to be. But what was particularly brilliant wasn't even the technique and the fact that, you know, we know that about Floyd is the fact that Floyd fought like he's never fought before. He fought like a Diaz, bro. He walked him down and beat the ass, and it was really fun to watch. And it was a great fight, and it was a great performance by Mayweather, and it was a great way to end your career. And I don't begrudge him. Even though, like, I do agree with you, it does come with an asterisk because you fought a guy that's 0-0, but I don't begrudge him that. Like, Floyd never never. There's very few fighters that can say that, ever. Well, unless you want to call McGregor a tomato. But he's probably worse than a tomato can.
I don't care about I don't care about his record. It means shit to me. It doesn't mean a damn thing to me. If he wants to say he's 50-0, fine, go ahead. I don't care. Doesn't matter.
He's earned it, you know. Honestly, he's earned it. Like, I can tell you, like, I know I followed Floyd from the beginning, from the very beginning. Like, his first fight, I'll never forget it. It was when it was in Vegas. It was in a car park. It was in a car park, and I got to see his very first fight, and now I got to see his very last. And honestly, this guy's career is amazing. He fought 3 entire generations of elite. Like, he fought some of the greatest that ever lived, and he made it look easy most of the time. 2 times he was hurt or challenged, he came through with flying colors. So, you know, good luck to him. And as a fighter, the man is flawless. He literally is flawless. And he proved it last night. He proved it because it's not because you've got a lot of technique that you can't punch. Like, people start, like Skip Bayless. Like, I like the guy, but he's super annoying when it comes to, you know, that's his job. He's a troll. He's a professional troll.
But he's not rude, though. He's not rude.
No, he's never rude. He's never rude. He's annoying, but that's his act. That's his shtick. I always liked Skip. I always had a because he's just so entertaining, but he can really annoy you. But the thing was, it's funny. On bullshit most of the time, but I think he actually believed it. I get the impression he really believed that because he really dislikes Mayweather. He really does, and he did it with Pacquiao, and he went far with Pacquiao. But this time he went even further with McLeprechaun. I mean, he really went full on. He went full retard. You never go full retard. Skip went full retard and then some. He went full retard on steroids, and it was brilliant to watch. But
oh God,
I mean, Brendan Schaub went full retard too. But the thing about Brendan Schaub is he's very honest. He announces himself as the #1 Conor McGregor dick rider. It's, you know, like you should watch the video. Luke Thomas interviews him. A radio show. You can watch it on YouTube. It's hilarious. And he's like, "Yep, a dick rider in the house." it's really funny. But, you know, like, there were a lot of stupid, ignorant, disrespectful things said. And I mean, none more so than, you know, the great Dana White. You know, clearly McLeprechaun is, you know, is a bigger, stronger Irish gorilla, and he will crush Mayweather, and, you know, he will make McGregor. He will.
Oh yeah, he was going to knock him out in 2 rounds too.
And of course, you know,
he said all those things, blowing his mouth off, and now today people are going to forgive him for it, you know. But at the time he says those kinds of things, if you say anything against it, people are looking at you like you're a jerk, you know.
Yeah, like, don't you know? Don't you know?
Shit.
McGregor sees these things.
I am so sick of people with big mouths. Just sick of it.
Yeah, well, that's the era, isn't it? We live in the era of big mouths.
We even got a president of the United States just like that. Got a big mouth.
Oh my God! I mean, come on. This is the first president in U.S. history who started Twitter war with a 17-year-old and lost.
He did
Like
what?
that. He started a Twitter war with a 17-year-old boy.
Yeah.
It's like the 17-year-old actually came out on top. That was brilliant. I'll never forget that. And you know what? Thank you, Donald, for giving me those memories. You know,
Oh, jeez. I need
so
my
many.
president to do a lot more than just operate a goddamn cell phone and a Twitter account.
Or
Jeez.
do we? Because Hillary would have done a lot more. Saw like we'd be World War III by now if she was president, right?
No,
She would have had some invade.
let's not get into that shit. But
Let's keep it.
I need my president to take care of my country, and I don't feel like Donald Trump is doing that.
Oh no, he's not. But like, okay, like let's just stop talking about politics because then we're going to go deep and you know I have my own
Yeah,
views. So
yeah,
like
yeah,
let's keep this MMA, let's keep this boxing, let's keep this send in the clowns because like basically that's what happened last night. They sent in the clown, then they sent in the chief clown, and he got schooled. He got done. And how about okay? Like we are we done with? You have any thoughts on or the media's reaction and the
No,
narrative, the post-fight narrative, or
no, not really. I just really I haven't listened. Well, I started listening to some of it today on ESPN and Fox,
right?
and I listened to a little bit of it, and then when I realized that all that these people were doing, and these were three on Fox, these were three MMA fighters that were extolling the abilities of McGregor. I just switched it off because all I'm listening to, I realized all I was listening to is a commercial scripted by Dana
Yeah,
White.
yeah, no,
I don't
exactly.
need to
Just
listen
stay
to that shit. I don't want to listen to that. It's bullshit.
and he really doesn't these days have anything intelligent to say, then by all means listen. But I mean, nowadays all he has to say is just like absolute nonsense. Boy, was he in fine form last night. Like, oh yeah, what did he say about like he was like he gave McGregor. I mean, I'll give him that. He gave half a second to give Mayweather his props, but then of course all about McGregor managed to hit. He managed to hit Mayweather. McGregor managed to hit Mayweather more than his last 5 opponents combined. Shit like that, like completely ignoring the fact that that's not true. And then the other part that he was allowed, Floyd allowed him to hit him.
Yeah.
Hadn't want,
Well,
whatever.
you've just touched on something that uh, that is the way I feel about this, and that is that I'm not even going to listen to it. I'm just going to ignore it. There's no point in listening to it, and there's no point in trying to conjecture over it because it's all bullshit. And I would rather us talk about something meaningful instead of talking
Absolutely.
about some promoter's bullshit.
Speaking of something meaningful, we're talking about the hack job most media is. Here's a 2-minute segment from Bob Lay and Jeremy Schaap on and these guys are serious journalists. Play it if you're interested. Like they actually
Go.
give a very good rundown of what happened last night.
I think I heard some of it this morning.
You want I should
No,
play
go
it?
ahead. Go ahead and play it.
Yeah, the almighty Disney. This is I'm going to play this video, this audio file with under the fair use, whatever you want to call it. So I'm not making money off of this. So leave me alone. Don't try and shut me down. Yeah, you have to say it, otherwise they come after you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what they call it.
Uh-huh.
Okay, here we go. I'm pressing play. Let me know. Can you hear?
No.
Okay, hold on. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to copy the link. Put it on in here. I don't know if it'll work. Okay, I'm going to post it here in the message board. The link. And I'm going to try and play it again. Maybe. And I miss Gerald. He knows how to do this. Okay, let me know if you if it works this time, okay?
Okay.
Can you hear this?
No.
Okay, I can't get it to work. Like I can hear it, but
Okay.
obviously you can't. So
Okay.
so I posted the links, the link to the video, and
Okay. Like I said, I heard some of it this morning. But like what you're trying to say, Cyrus, is that Shap and Lay, they're matter of fact men. They're not trying to sell anything.
They take pride in being serious,
doing a good job.
Exactly, like and understanding what's happening right in front of them. But whatever, like that's the.
There's not too many of those guys left on ESPN,
Oh, absolutely, there aren't. There are not. Like ESPN was the place that was, honestly, when it came to video and content, they were the best. And for all intents and purposes, they're still the biggest. And I don't know if they're still the best, but like I mean, there's moments where Fox Sports is like ESPN is falling to such depths with their First Take and their his and her, whatever the fuck you call it. They're actually making Fox Sports look just like CNN are making Fox Sports look reasonable.
Yeah, Fox used to be the stepchild. Yeah, but they're not anymore.
No, they're actually serious. Like now that all the old fools or freaks or getting fired from Fox, and they like the new face of Fox is basically Tucker Carlson, who I actually really like. Or not, I actually like the dude. He can make a decent argument instead of like, we'll play it live, we'll fucking play it live, or shut up. He actually can argue his point. Yeah. And the guy's brilliant. I actually enjoy watching him. And I'm not a conservative. I'm not, whatever. But like I enjoy intelligent argument or not. But I really enjoy someone who can debate his points. And what I love about Carlson is no matter how much he disagrees with you or even how much he hates or despises you, he will let you make your point. What he'll do is, especially people he can't stand, he'll give him all the rope they need to hang themselves. And then he'll come into the kill. And it's brilliant. And you just didn't get that from Fox, But anyway, like how about we move on? Like I think we've said what we needed to say about this fight. Move on and look to the future. Like what's next for McLeprechaun and like the future cards, like that, because like the last quarter of this year, the last sporting quarter of this year when it comes to combat sports is going to be, whether it's boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, or MMA, UFC, Bellator. There's a lot of big fights and big events coming up. So like how about we start with what you think is in where do you see him? Yeah.
McGregor, he's going to have to meet up with Tony sooner or later. And I have a suspicion that he won't see Tony until next year.
Yeah, well, that's fair enough. Yeah,
I think that's probably the truth. And
let me ask you this, because we've heard a lot about that. But like personally, do you think he should McLeprechaun should retire? Let's say tomorrow he retired.
No, I don't think he should retire. I think that he will retire, or
interesting,
or just make himself available for extravaganzas like we just saw last night.
Right, but like, don't you think the fact that like, I know the narrative is like, look how brave he was and look how good he was at losing, but don't you think that like his legacy he's been exposed fighting in boxing, but as far as he was never going to win.
Well, let's face it, he got beat last night. Okay.
He got beat. He was always going to get
he
beat,
got,
right? But the way
he got beat last night, and I truly believe if he meets up with Tony Ferguson, he's going to get his ass whipped, and if he meets up with Khabib, he's going to get his ass whipped. So I think he knows it too. So I can't really see him offering to fight these guys.
One I'd love to. I mean, there's quite a few fights that would be very fun. I mean, I'd love to see him thing and face Jose. You know, give Jose Aldo what he's earned, what he deserves, and give him a rematch for a title or not.
Yeah, that'll never happen. I don't.
Yeah, obviously not. But there's quite a few fights. I'd pay good money to see McLeprechaun Gilbert Melendez. I'd pay great money to see him versus Edson Barbosa. You know,
I don't know much about that guy.
Oh, that guy's amazing. The reason Edson Barbosa intrigues me is he is probably the most physically and technically gifted lightweight ever. He's I'm sure you've seen that because there's millions of gifs of that, and he was the first what's it called, a spinning back kick knockout in UFC history. Like that guy. That guy is like a bigger, more muscular version of Aldo. So fast, and it's so beautiful.
Well, I remember. Now that you mention it, I remember that spinning back kick. But why don't we see it regularly? Why doesn't Dana White trot these assholes out here so we can see them fight?
Because his, you know, like it takes a lot. It takes a lot of time to constantly be dick riding Connor, to be pimping Connor. It's like,
yeah, but in the meantime, Cyrus, I will have fallen in love and out of love 3 times before I see these guys fight again. You know, I'm not going to wait around to watch these assholes fight.
No, I get it, but that's you can't blame these assholes. You have to blame Dana White and McGregor.
Oh, of course, but if these guys want to fight, why don't they go to Bellator? Bellator will let them fight.
Oh, that's interesting you say that, but that's what's happening. Like as soon as their contracts are up, they're at the very least playing the open market, which is a beautiful thing to see, because before fighters, at least since Strikeforce was bought out by the UFC, fighters felt like the only place to be was UFC. But now that, you know, Bellator is going from strength to strength, fighters understand that, you know, they understand their worth. They understand that the UFC would be nowhere without them, and they make demands and they stick to their demands. They don't compromise. They compromise a lot less than they ever did. And if the UFC don't meet their demands, they know that the UFC is not the be all and end all. I mean, look at Gegard Mousasi, an all-time great, a legend of the sport. He fought everybody. Like his resume is a who's who of monsters and killers and dangerous strikers. Promotion. And the reason he left was, I mean, you know, he obviously tripled his money going to Bellator, but the main reason, and he said that was the straw that broke the camel back, what made up his mind, was like Bellator gave him all that he asked and they were honest with him. But the main reason was, like, he knew never going to let him fight Michael Bisping. He knew that Bisping would never. I'm very close to #1 contender status. Like, you know, he could have legitimately fought for the title. And I thought, like, when Chris Weidman pulled out of UFC 199, Michael Bisping should have never fought for the title. It should have the title shot should have gone to Gegard Mousasi. But anyways, you know, he knows that they'll never allow him to get to a title contention, even though he's earned it. So he went to Bellator, and he will be fighting for the title. And he could legitimately win 3 titles in Bellator.
What I really want to touch on here is when I bring up the fact that these big names don't fight very often, and they don't, is because I don't care. I really don't care to watch second and third rate MMA fighters. I really don't care to watch them. I want to watch Tony Ferguson. I want to
Best fight
watch.
the best.
Yeah, I want to see the best fight the best. In fact, that's what the UFC bases. That's how they portray themselves. The best fight the best. Well, God damn it, let's see it, okay? Otherwise,
Absolutely.
I don't have time for it. And particularly this time of the year when there's NFL football starting up, I really don't have time for it. Now, if Tony Ferguson were to, if Tony Ferguson were to meet up with McGregor next month, I'd tune into it. In fact, if there was a great football game on, I wouldn't watch it. I would watch Tony Ferguson fight McGregor, but they're not gonna.
Well,
and I'm not going to watch second and third rate fighters. I'm just not going to. Now, if those second and third rate fighters one day become first rate fighters, I'll watch them, but they're not first rate fighters. So I don't want to watch them.
Like, let's say Tony Ferguson's next fight, it's official, is going to be Kevin Lee, right? Motown City phenom. And he's a really fun fighter to watch. And he's, I think he's ranked 5th. So he's no scrub. He's definitely, like, this fight is going to be huge for him, because if he can manage to even put in a good performance against Tony as elite, and if he manages to beat Ferguson, which is just like a tall order, then and he's like, you know, a title contender, right? So
yeah,
bad fight to watch. I'd rather see Tony get what he deserves, which is the title shot. Like, he should be champion by now, because I like, he could fight Conor 10 times, and as long as he doesn't do anything stupid, he will beat him 10 times out of 10. I have no doubt. Like, he's a bad matchup for Conor. He's taller, he's longer, he hits harder. He's a complete mixed martial artist. He's dangerous on the ground. He's an excellent wrestler. He's got legitimate one-punch knockout power. He's got he's got some great kickboxing. He's a complete mixed martial artist, and he's training with Eddie Bravo with the jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
He wouldn't just beat McGregor. He'd steal his heart. He'd break him. Like, that's what wrestlers do. Same goes for Habib with the Sambo. You know, the guy's like deadly. Once he gets you to the ground, like, he will ground and pound you into oblivion. But most of the top 10 lightweights I would pick over McGregor. There's a couple question marks. Like, that's why I'd love to see McLeprechaun take on Edson Barbosa, because Edson Barbosa, for all his talent, he's had moments where he drifts in and out of a fight, like in his own way. So that could be really good. It could be, like, it would be intriguing. It's like very little suspense. And I'm not dumping on the fight. I have no doubt in my mind Habib, Tony Ferguson beat him. I honestly believe versus McLeprechaun would be a great fight, because there's also a question mark about Kevin Lee. Not about his talent, not about his legitimacy, about sometimes he loses focus. Sometimes he just loves just getting into a scrap, and he can get caught. And of course, like you mentioned, the biggest fight you can make with him right now, the most intriguing, is the third. Is McGregor fight. That, I'd love to see that fight.
That would be the first fight, Cyrus, that I would actually spend money on. I would pay to see that.
Yeah, of course. I mean, the first two were so good, so much fun. Even though the second one, I thought Diaz got robbed, but that's just my opinion. And then again, like,
well, the biggest reason I'd like to see it is for first, there's going to be good action in it, because these two guys go after each other. And number two, I think Nate will beat him.
Oh yeah, I'm convinced. Nate is, especially at lightweight. Nate is amazing at lightweight. He's, that's his weight. That's his bread and butter, and he's an elite lightweight. So if he comes in focused and hungry, oh yeah, he beats him. He beats him worse than the first time. So yeah, I'd love to see that fight. But
But
You know, you're talking
we
about
won't see it
legitimate.
until Connor. We won't see it until Connor tells White that he wants half of the gate or something like that.
Yeah, something ridiculous, or a share of whatever, but whatever.
Yeah.
You were, you said something very interesting. You're talking about like you want to see the best fighting the best again, and you know what? We do have some of those fights coming up, like the very next UFC, UFC 260.
Yeah.
We've got Valentina Shevchenko versus Amanda Nunes.
Shevchenko's going down.
Yeah, I know. We already talked about that.
Yeah,
Fuck
we
you,
did.
Jim. Amanda's going no, like it's going to be a great fight, no matter what the result. That's legitimate. The two best bantamweights on planet Earth. They're going to duke it up. That's a legit fight, and I'm so excited
There's gonna be blood in that fight, Cyrus.
Oh, for a fact, yeah, exactly. And I know for a fact Valentina wants to renew her rivalry with Joanna Jędrzejczyk. And now that they've opened the women's flyweight division, there's going to be so many good fights to watch. We're going to see a multiple weight world champion in the women's division because, like, a lot of strawweights are going to climb up to flyweight, and a lot of bantamweights are going to go down to their natural weight. So it's going to be great division. I'm intrigued to find out whether Holly takes on Cyborg or whether it's Kat.
You know that fight isn't set for sure.
No, I'm intrigued to see if they, who they match.
Did you know that, Cyrus?
That's going to be yes.
I thought that fight was a done deal, but it's not.
No, it's not. It's not like it's they may sometimes they announce fights before the fighters agree to take on the fight, and that's not the fighters. So it's the UFC because they're they sometimes they jump the gun and whatever. Holly could do very well in that fight. I'm not saying she beats her for sure, but Holly's no joke. And Holly, when she's at her best, she's a counterpuncher.
Holly could maybe go the distance with her, I think. Maybe.
Yeah, she could. A hell of a chin. Like you watched the one time she got knocked out, and I mean, she took a beating before she went down, and she was only TKO'd. She wasn't out. Interesting. But then you've got okay, I'm not as excited about that fight, but it's still an exciting fight because it's the main event of UFC 215 is Mighty Mouse Johnson taking on Ray Borg. Then UFC, I think it's UFC 216 or 27, I'm not sure. You got the return of GSP taking on Michael Bisping for the middleweight title that he's besmirched multiple times. And I see GSP beating him. Jay Dillashaw versus the bantamweight champion Cody Garbrandt, which is just so exciting. That's going to be a great fight for the bantamweight title. You've got great fights everywhere you look at in combat sports. Like in 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks from now,
we've got some great fights scheduled, but how many of them aren't gonna show up?
See, let's not jinx it. Like just moving to
no. Listen, hey, this for me to say that is not out of the question, Cyrus.
No, I didn't say it's out of the question. I'm just saying I don't want to say it because I don't even want to think about it. The injury bug. It's just like one of the worst things about MMA. Like it happens all the time, and I just don't even want to think about it because I'm looking forward to these fights. I mean, I'm also looking forward to the next in just over 2 weeks. We're gonna have Canelo Alvarez versus Triple G. That's be an amazing fight. That's gonna be an all-time fight. Two of the best. I mean, the two best, without doubt, in the world. Are gonna get into the ring to fight for Canelo's titles and Triple G's titles, world titles. It's gonna be exciting, and they're the two best light middleweights, junior middleweights, or whatever you want to call it, in the world. There's no doubt. And Canelo right now is the biggest star in boxing since Floyd has retired for good. Like he's a superstar in his own right, and he's an amazing fighter. And ever since,
do you think sometime in the future that you and I could do some talking about this Golovkin fight?
No, absolutely. But like, I'm very excited about that. There's going to be okay, in the same vein as not quite as ludicrous as what we just like the idea of an 0-0 fighter taking on the greatest ever boxer. But there's going to be glory.
No, I'd like
I
to
believe it's
discuss
in
the
Shanghai.
fight and discuss all the politics and the economics and all that bullshit that surrounding the fight, and
Yeah, of course.
all the ducking that's gone on and all that other shit.
Oh yeah, but that's the other stuff, man. Like that's what's kind of ruining the sport right now. Like I can't even I refuse to even call them champions, but and that's the McGregor is part of the problem. You have to defend it. You're not a champion until you've defended, and people like Michael Bisping are the main part of the problem because they refuse to defend their titles.
Well, it's not a problem because Dana White doesn't look at it as being a problem. So it's not a problem, Cyrus.
Oh yeah, well, fair enough. I guess you're right. I'm convinced now. I feel much better.
Well, I mean, you and I think differently, of course, but
Of course,
the
good.
UFC is Dana White's business. It's his business, and if he thinks it's not a problem, then it's not a problem. But
That's what's so ludicrous because for the first time since the beginning of Dana White's tenure as UFC president, it's not his business anymore. He sold it. He sold it to WME IMG, and
okay, then let me say this: it's the UFC's problem, but they don't view it as a
exactly.
problem. They don't view it as they don't view it as a problem.
Obviously not, and I completely agree with you. They obviously don't, but they also don't view MMA as a legit sport, I believe. And they also thought that these are the same geniuses named Amanda Nunez as cannon fodder. They said, we don't need to learn her real name because we'll never hear from her again. And look what she did to women fighter of her generation, or maybe ever, Ronda Rousey. She finished her inside a round. I mean, inside a minute, wasn't it? And it was an amazing performance. But Amanda Nunes is no joke. Even though Valentina will take the title from her, the thing is, Amanda Nunes is an elite mixed martial artist and a champion. But there's some.
Well,
but all that being said,
she's a champion, and I think her being a champion is substantial.
Oh, of course it is. She's defended.
Just to use the word champion is substantial, and the actual fact of the matter is she is a champion, and that is substantial.
Disputed as well because she's defended her title, and look at the run she went on after Kat Zingano finished her. I believe it was September 2014. She's gone on an amazing run. She beat Shayna Baszler, who's no joke. She TKO'd her. Choked out Sarah McMahon, who's dangerous for everybody. Who's an elite wrestler. Then after Sarah McMahon, I believe she beat Shevchenko. Then she went on to defeat Miesha Tate and take her title, and then she beat Ronda. That's an amazing. Yeah, she's a legit fighter. She's a legit champ, even though she kind of messed up with the UFC 213. She's a champ. We'll see next month in September when the UFC pay-per-view comes back into town and take on Valentina finally for the second time, and we'll see who comes out on top. But it's a really good fight, and there's a lot of very good fights coming up. There's a lot of great events. There's going to be UFC Detroit. I think that's going to be the first time UFC has ever been in Detroit. It's going to be a pay-per-view. That's going to be exciting. There's going to be an Australia event. They're going to fight all over the world, and there's going to be some great matchup. Like elite you know, the whole mantra of the best fight the best. We're going to see some of those, and that's really exciting. So, you know, and I mean, like, there's, I don't know if it's true. The Diaz brothers might be coming back soon too. Nick apparently might be fighting soon, sooner than we think. So that would be
Who
great.
might be coming back?
Nick Diaz.
I sure
Diaz
hope
apparently
so.
might be. Oh, me too. I love those two. I mean, I love the whole scrap pack. And these guys are real warriors. They'll fight anybody.
Why do you think Nick's not fighting? Is he independently wealthy or something, or what?
Well, I mean, his last fight he made quite a bit on. It was you know, the Anderson Silva fight that ended up being a joke because they tried to ban Nick for life for smoking weed and
Yeah, I'm aware of all that, but what is he
yeah.
doing for a living?
He's you know, that he fights, but you know, he's one of the biggest stars in MMA. So you know, whenever he fights, it's a huge event, and he makes plenty of money. And besides, like, they've got the Diaz brothers have their own business. You know, they do a lot of stuff.
Oh, they
They're
do.
very active. So yeah, they're
Oh,
all
okay.
the thing is, they know what they're worth to a certain extent, and they're not pushovers. You know, they're not going to fight for peanuts. They're not going to risk life and limb and brain cells for absolute peanuts, which is what you've been.
Yeah, but boy, I'd sure like to see him fight. Oh boy.
Makes me happy to see Nate say, like, I ain't even going to consider any offer unless it's like less than 20 million, unless it's like minimum $20 million, because you know, like, I could either I think it's actually a very reasonable demand. Like, the Diaz brothers are real draws. They make hundreds of millions of dollars every year. So why can't they pay like they should be?
Well, I think they're big draws because Nate is the first MMA fighter I would actually spend money on.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I mean, look, you know, it's just both. Anybody who fights from that gym, from the scrap pack gym, is always worth watching. It's Gilbert Melendez, whether it's Nate Diaz, whether it's his older brother Nick, you know, they come to fight. I love watching Jake Shields. He has a different style, and a lot of people call him boring, but Jake Shields is a joy to watch, man. Like, his technique, I watched the last Polaris, and you know, he won again. It wasn't the most exciting grappling BJJ fight, but it was still really impressive. And he's another great mixed martial artist. So yeah. Anyways,
Well, you think sometime in the future that we could do a little talking about the Golovkin Alvarez fight?
oh, absolutely. We definitely have to break that one down, man. That's I'm really
I
excited.
want to. I'd like to talk about it, and it would be a good reason for me to purposely do some research, you know, so that I could
Okay.
be more well-rounded on that, because I like Golovkin. I really like him.
Oh, I like Golovkin. I'm a fan of both dudes. I love Golovkin. I love his persona. He comes across as a really good dude, but I also really like Canelo, man. And I don't know, feeling that Canelo might actually pull it off, because you know, he's been going from strength to strength. He's younger, and every time we see him fight, he always seems to get better. We'll see. But yeah, you know what? Here, how's about this, Jim? We both do our research. We both do our share of watching a rundown of both men's fights, and then when it comes, 3 days before, 3 days out the fight, or 2 days out the fight, we can sit down and record a podcast episode and break down. We'll have a special boxing edition of Soul of the Fighter,
Sure.
and we can break it down. And
Sure, that sounds great to me, Cyrus. If you'd like to do that.
oh, I'd love to do that. I live for this stuff. So yeah, of course.
I look at it as an opportunity to learn a lot.
That was same here, man. Every time we do these and we talk, I learn something. So that's awesome. And next, by then, I think Gerald will be part of the party. So you know, it could be a three-way debate slash rundown breakdown of episode of Soul of the Fighter on Canelo versus Golovkin, which is going to be a fight for a generation. It's going to be great. So yeah, I think we've discussed pretty much everything we wanted to, don't you think?
Yeah, well, that too, and I've kind of got some things I got to get on.
But there you go, man. It's
no, this was a lot of fun. I as always, Cyrus, I've learned some things here. I appreciate that.
Well, right back at you, man. It's always fun doing these with you, and it's always fun discussing because we both learn a lot of stuff. I've learned plenty of things too. So, and it was a night of fights last night. So, like we haven't even talked about the other fights on that card, but there were some great fights, like particularly Nathan Cleverly versus Badu Jack. That was a lot of fun. So, well, this was fun too. So, recording this podcast episode was fun. I thank you for doing this with me. And well, any to our listeners?
No, for myself, other than thanks for letting me participate, Cyrus, and I look forward to the next time we can talk over some subjects.
And thank you for your time, Jim. It was a lot of fun. Well, look, we'd like to we both to wish our listeners a good evening. We'll be back very soon with a breakdown of Canelo versus Triple G. More episodes about MMA. We'll also be breaking down the next UFC pay-per-view card. So you guys have a good evening. Chris, good night.